Our next guest in the studio has been in the UAE now for about 18 months. He's the signature manager of the UFC gyms in the Middle East, and he's going to discuss, well, how they're trying to remove that stigma around MMA and Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, and just why UFC continues to be this ever-growing beast. Skyler Meyers, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate you having me here.
It's great to have you here, and UFC tends to be, would you say it's one of the biggest markets for it? Because, you know, this region for a long time has had UFC fights, particularly in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, no, it certainly has, and I've been here as the UFC gym since 2016, so we've been growing rapidly, right? We have 8 locations across the UAE, and we have over 20 across the region, so we have been growing super fast.
Now, but I think that Dubai is probably one of the fittest cities on the planet. I think we're an active city. On the weekends, we don't just go to restaurants, we've all got to go to pool clubs, so we all tend to be a bit more image conscious, I think, than back home. And for the UFC gym, does it help you that you're associated and people know Conor McGregor and all these people? Does that bring people to the gym, or do you think that maybe it could work against you sometimes, that they think that the gym workouts are a bit too aggressive?
Well, of course, anytime you have the name UFC in front of your gym, right, people automatically think of fighting if they know what the Ultimate Fighting Championship is. So it's always intimidating, but it's always intimidating walking into any gym, right? And so we're here to teach people that we're here to train you like a fighter, but not to have to be a fighter, right? And we offer so many other elements other than just martial arts in our facilities, and that's, I think, a lot of the distinction that people don't understand.
The basic concept of doing any form of fight, is a little bit of a challenge for parents to let their kids go. And I say this because, we've seen so many kids take up getting into gymming or any other sport at a very early age. Parents don't want them to be associated with this because, hey, they'll come back with a broken nose.
Well, this is true, but if you look at what the BJJ community has done for the sport, right, where there is no actual striking involved, but the self-defense aspect still is there. That is such a great avenue to get your kids involved with, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned about jiu-jitsu a while back. Asian Championships were held here in Abu Dhabi, and 59 medals were bagged by UAE. UAE is a growing community for jiu-jitsu, but then how do you see it from a geographical standpoint, that within UAE, Abu Dhabi definitely, yes, is leading, Dubai is leading, but is it also within a certain community, a certain set of people?
No, not at all. I think just in general, the sport is growing across the world like you couldn't believe, right? Whether it's your son, your daughter, your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, everyone is getting involved in the sport because they're understanding what it has to offer to the world.
Where did your journey with UFC begin, or did it begin with MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Well, I mean, my background originally started in strength and conditioning, right? And then I got involved as martial arts a little bit later on in life, and started competing a little bit in the amateur ranks and things of that sort. And obviously, I hold the rank of purple belt under Brady Fink, who is a Carson Gracie black belt.
Wow!
And so so I've been involved in it for goodness, almost 2 decades now. And so it's started not only from a young age with basic martial arts, but it progressed to where the sport is now.
What are some of the stories? It must be quite rewarding to see people that step foot in the gym, and like you said, it doesn't matter even if you've been training every day of your life at a gym. When you start at a new gym, there's always a bit of that first day of school, and you're a bit nervous. What are some of those transformation stories where people have come in and maybe haven't really understood the importance of physical fitness and mental fitness, that you've seen people's lives transform thanks to training at the UFC gym?
Yeah, of course. I think not only from a martial arts standpoint, but also from a fitness standpoint, the discipline that goes into what it takes to achieve your goals, it applies in so many other aspects of your life, right? The daily actions equal the big sum, and I think that's one of the things that you can learn the most from both of those things.
There's a lot of focus put on multi-sport athletes, wherein while you're training for one sport, you might be a semi-pro or a pro or an upcoming athlete in one sport. Coaches nowadays are putting you to train other sports as well. Where does BJJ come into this sector if someone is looking for non-contact sport?
Well, that's a that's a challenging subject, right? At the end of the day, if you want to get good at anything, you have to practice that something. Right? So the carryover effect, of course, there is a little bit of that, but scientifically, if you want to get good at something, practice that something. So at the end of the day,
now, there's also a bit of background to this, Skyler, you wouldn't know. Neil being Indian and me being Australian, our cricket sides are quite big rivals. But Indian cricket players tend to have only grown up playing cricket maybe a bit of hockey. Whereas in Australia, it's a bit like the States. If you're an athlete, you play 6, 7 sports until at about 14 you decide on. So you tend to have a coordination or almost a muscle memory that you do from playing all these sports. Do you think that's perhaps one of the benefits of UFC training as well?
Yeah, of course. We call it proprioception awareness, right? It's understanding where your body is in space, right? And so, of course, when you play in multiple sports, and multiple directional sports, you have a better understanding of where you are.
Yeah.
So of course there is a little bit of carryover effect, but at the end of the day, if you want to get good at swinging a bat or kicking a football, you have to practice that particular movement.
There was a conversation a while back where we said that day one at any gym is overwhelming, and more so with the concept of UFC. And why I say this is where I live now, there used to be an UFC gym there. Okay, pretty close. And I always used to think that, should I go there? And being myself, being someone who's worked around within the fitness industry for some time, I used to be like, should I, shouldn't I? But that little factor, that little hesitation was always there because of the UFC tag. How do you look to break that little barrier, make it easy for people to understand that, hey, there's not a world of a difference. You don't need to be a fighter to come to UFC.
Well, of course, I think that just comes down to, it falls on us as a branding aspect, right? We have to let people know that our general member base is from the age of 4 years old to until the day you die, right? 90, 100, 120, whatever that may be, right? And so we offer everything for the family. We're not just here to create fighters.
Okay.
We offer fitness, and in that sense, functional fitness. We offer, boot camps, which are full body workouts. We offer BJJ. We offer striking. We offer so many different elements of fitness. We have a full functioning gym, right? We have all the cardio equipment. So we offer everything that somebody would want from a normal gym. But the thing that separates us is that we also offer the martial arts aspect that most gyms do not.
And let me say, there's no stress reliever than putting the gloves on and hitting something.
I totally agree with you.
Of course not. No, I agree completely, right?
And is that part of the transformation of people that kind of, they start there and they put the gloves on and they're hitting the bag a few times, and then they might be a little bit hesitant to be aggressive, but then they realize this is so good for the mind. This is not just great for the body.
No, of course, right? We get so many testimonials of people coming in who, and if you look at most gyms across the world, right, they always put the treadmills in the front of the gym. Why? Because it's the most comfortable thing to recognize when you walk in.
Yeah.
Then they get on the treadmill and then they start seeing classes, and then all of a sudden they go, I think I want to try that. I think I want to do that. And then all of a sudden they start doing it and they realize, oh my goodness, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. And then you see them from, just being on the treadmill to now they're multiple times a week participants in our martial arts classes, which we offer conditioning, and then we also offer technique, which are 2 separate classes.
Okay.
And so for the average member, they're going to love coming in, just hitting the bag, just burning calories, learning a little bit of the technique, and relieving that stress, just like you're saying.
Yeah, it's the best way. And I also have a strong theory on that. People that take a book and walk on the treadmill. I mean, why?
You could just walk to the gym. Why would you even walk on the treadmill?
Look, I have resigned. I have kind of pulled back because the heat of the UAE in summer, okay, I can. Yeah. But I just see it back home in Australia and I go, why?
Well, it's the same thing in the US, right? Someone drives to the gym to go walk on the treadmill. You might as well just walk outside. Why would you go drive to then go walk? It makes no sense.
I agree with you, and I think that's one of the things that I found with my fitness journey is I love that group activity. Meeting with people, training with people, having to, commit to people, having to have that energy to push you through the class that otherwise, you might slacken off or not even turn up. And that's the community, isn't it? That people like.
It is. Community is very important, but I think culture is even a bigger thing, right? A culture that drives success, right? That doesn't let excuses drive its people, right? Because you can get a community together, right? Like in the U.S., we have communities for people who are 55 and older or 60 and older, but they might not have the same drive as one another. So in our gyms, we try to drive culture, and we drive cultures essentially by our coaching staff. And it's a culture that is driving results. And that separates a little bit of the community from the culture, because that culture then creates a community of people who want success. So it separates the people who just want to be part of the community but don't actually want success. And that's the greatest thing about what we do. We create this culture of success.
So people do want to get in contact with the UFC gyms. You're right across the Middle East. Website, Instagram, what's the best place to get in contact?
Yeah, UFC Gym.me. We're all across the UAE. We have 2 in Abu Dhabi. We have 8 in the UAE. And then obviously we have sub-franchise partners all across the Middle East. We're in Oman, we're in Qatar, we're in Saudi Arabia, we're in Egypt. We're all over. We have 20 plus clubs across this region.
What a great job you've got here, overseeing all these countries.
I've visited Egypt, Kuwait. I've been all over. It's been quite a awakening of different cultures from what I'm used to back home.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your success. Thank you for coming in. It's the UFC gyms, as you said, they're right across the Middle East. And to Skyler Meyers, thanks for coming in and sharing your story as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Talk 100.